Good evening and welcome to CM Performing Arts Center's online live speaker series, CM Spotlight. I'm Tim Pappalardo. I'm your host. Thank you for joining me this evening. So in this series, we will shine the spotlight on CM's brightest talents to hear all about their lives working in the theater. So last week, we got to speak with Patrick Grossman and the cast of CM's upcoming production of Holiday Inn with Bailey Whitney, Steve Contenero, and Katie Ferretti. If you missed those talks, you can view those on our Facebook and YouTube page. And in a few minutes, we will be talking with CM alumni Sonny Paladino. So that will be in a moment. So this past week, we launched a brand new campaign with folks talking from the community on videos about the organization, about the importance of what it plays in their lives. It launched with our board member, Mark Ossay, the chair of the board, talking about, why CM was so important to him. We heard from Larissa, who works in our box office, Kim, who is a scenic painter, and it's wonderful to learn all about all the individuals who are involved in the organization. And I look forward to hearing so many more stories. So we are here. Part of our evening tonight, part of our CM Live is to raise money for the organization. So I need to ask you again tonight, consider donating to CM. CM is a nonprofit. We, unfortunately, at this time cannot be opening our doors to have performances. So that means that there is no money coming in. So we are depending upon our patrons, our people from the community to support us during this time. So I would ask you, visit our page. It is cmpac.com/donate. It's with the little ticker right there, cmpac.com/donate. So thank you in advance for your donations. Very much appreciate it. So as a reminder, we have another fantastic program. I just spoke about it a moment ago, CM Cabaret's live series, and we have the episode 3 CM Teens that is coming up this coming Friday, and it's featuring the talents of many performers that grace our stage. And this week it is CM Teens, and it's hosted by our resident heartthrob Hans Hendrickson, and he is here. Hi, Hans.
Hey, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing very well. Thank you. Thank you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. So how have you been passing the time during the quarantine?
I've been watching a lot of Disney Plus. I watched every episode of Star Wars on there. I rewatched The Mandalorian. I've been watching a lot of Netflix. I recently watched The Dirt on Netflix. Highly recommend. Been getting into some new music. Just hopped on the Billie Eilish train. The Dirt is about Motley Crue, so I started listening to some of them. And there's a rapper, musician, Machine Gun Kelly, who was in The Dirt, so I started listening to his music as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, just trying to stay active,
That's cool. I mean, the fact is that you have all these amazing shows that you can look at. You can be watching these great characters, and it's like a whole new way to research characters and character development and whatnot.
Oh, totally, definitely.
That's so cool. And so, out of all those shows that you just listed, what is the one that people should not miss?
I definitely have to say The Mandalorian. If you like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or if you enjoyed any of the Iron Man films, the director of those films is actually the one who created The Mandalorian. That's where you see the Baby Yoda from all the internet memes and stuff like that. Essentially, it's about a bounty hunter in the Star Wars lore. I don't want to give too much away, but it turns out that Baby Yoda is his bounty, and it's kind of about the adventures that they go on. John Favreau directed and shot it and everything. It's really good. It's really good.
So say the title again.
The Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian. I'm
Yeah,
writing it down. I haven't watched. I've been trying to not watch as much TV, but I want to be able to see a really good show. So Hans, give me the details. What is going on this week? So I know it's the teens, it's CM Teens. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to the same premise as the past 2 weeks. The cool thing about this week, though, is that we're bringing some of the team talent to you guys. And I think that's really great because, you know, a lot of people will see the main stages at CM, but they may not get the chance to see the teams. And they're just as, if not more talented than some of the performers that we have on the main stage.
I was going to say to you that, like, one of the things that I think about when I see the teens is how incredibly talented they were. And, you know, either that I was not as good as they were at all, or that the teens are just, I don't know, they're better at their age now. I mean, like,
Yeah,
the talent is extreme.
Yeah, it's got to be those like Michelle Obama mandated lunches or something, right? They're putting that talent powder in them, you know. I don't know, but seriously, these kids are great. You know, I was able to get a sneak peek at the song list. I know some of them personally as well. You know, and they've blown my mind on several occasions, and I can't wait to hear what they have to bring to the table on Friday.
So Hans, I'm going to move closer to the camera. I'm going to bring our faces as close as possible. Can you tell us who is singing what?
Well, I can't tell you who's singing what exactly. No. But I can let you know a couple of like the shows that you'll be hearing songs from.
Oh, great. Okay.
We got some Footloose. We got some Beetlejuice. We've got some Carrie, some Heathers, some Mean Girls, some Finding Neverland. So it's basically just like a mix of like contemporary musical theater. You know, I'm really excited. I have to say, I'm super excited.
Well, I will definitely be checking it out. I have been popping into every one of those broadcasts, and, you know, episode 1, fantastic. Episode 2, the voices and the videos, amazing. People are incredible. And then I'm so excited to see the teens, and I think that they have their they're going to have their moment in the sun this week. So Hans, give me the details. What's the details on it?
Okay, so it's going to be tomorrow night, 4/24, Friday night. It's at 8 p.m. You can tune in through our Facebook or through our YouTube. Basically, however you're tuning into this, you can tune into that.
Fantastic. Hans, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for your work on this cabaret, and I look forward to seeing it and just being wowed.
Oh, yeah, me too, Tim. Thank you so much for having me.
See you later. So as a reminder, this is a live interview, and on CM's Facebook page, we can take your comments. So I think down below, please feel free to write any question that you would have for Sonny, and we will bring that into the interview. So without further ado, let's get this spotlight underway. Most recently, he served as the musical director, vocal, dance, instrumental music arranger, and orchestrator for the Broadway musical Getting the Band Back Together and the off-Broadway revival of Smokey Joe's Cafe. He was the music supervisor for the Broadway musical Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812. He did arrangements and orchestrations for the Indianapolis, Baltimore, Vancouver, Detroit, and Jacksonville symphony orchestras and the Philly Pops. You just can't make this up. He was the associate conductor for The Last Ship, written by 16-time Grammy Award winner Sting, and most recently, the Tony Award-winning Best Musical, Pippin. The list literally goes on and on and on. And if I read his entire bio, there would be like no time left for this interview. The time would be over. So let's welcome friend and CM alumni, Sonny Paladino. Hey, Sonny.
What's up, Tim?
Nice to see you.
See you, man.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah, you look good.
Thank you. Thanks.
You always have the best hair. I was so jealous always of your hair. You got great.
I've only got like 2 days left before I can't do anything with it. So if this happened 2 days from now, I'd be wearing a hat.
Please promise that you are not going to be cutting your own hair.
No, I'm not doing it. Just letting nature take its course.
Have you seen those people who have cut their bangs?
Not doing
like this? I watched actually an interview today where they told just in case you do, and if anybody on this broadcast does, you cut from this way, and you don't go past your iris.
Okay.
Yeah. So Sonny, how are you doing? Where are you?
Good. I'm in my house in PA. I got out of the city on March 17th. It just got too crazy there, and I actually wasn't feeling well, so I just wanted to get out of the city. And the first 2 weeks I was up here, had a little bout of the COVID myself, but I made a full recovery. It was tough for a couple of weeks, but made it through. So
you're the first person I've actually talked with that had COVID. Did you go through like the high temperatures, the not being able to taste anything?
Yeah, all of that. And I should say, I mean, I had an appointment with my doctor, but on just like this. But I've never gotten a test. But I had all the symptoms: the fever, high fever, crazy dreams, then the cough, the dry cough for a few days, and then extreme fatigue for like 2 weeks.
Jeez.
But I feel great now, so had a lot better than a lot of people.
Glad to hear that you've recovered. So important. I've been saying this to everybody here on the calls, is that I think honestly, and I'll ask you what you think the best thing is. The best thing for me, I think, is just sort of to open up the windows in your home and to get some fresh air and like breathe in that air and to just be like.
I mean, that's the great thing about being up here in the country is I can go outside and walk by lakes and see deer running and everything. It feels like a better place to be than Manhattan right now. So
yeah. Are you participating in that 7 p.m. clanking of the?
Well, I mean, there's nobody here to hear. I literally am in solitude up here. So.
He's outside. Nobody's here, but he's outside every night at 7 o'clock clanking.
Everyone would just think I'm trying to chase away the bears.
So, what are you doing to pass the time up there with the social distancing?
Hanging out, doing long walks, and cooking a lot, right? There isn't even really takeout up here. So I'm cooking every meal, and I'm loving that. I love to cook, but in real life in New York City, I never have time for that. So that's been great.
Well, so in all fairness, after looking and doing research on you and looking at your resume, that's a very honest, blunt statement. I don't have time to do this because you are consistently working. It seems like you are moving from project to project.
Yeah, it's been a good run. So hopefully, when we get back to doing live theater and live performances, we'll be back to that. But right now, it's a break. So I'm just trying to embrace that.
It's the forced vacation.
Yeah, except it doesn't necessarily feel like a vacation, but it's a forced break for sure.
So, Sonny, we are here to talk about, as I zoom the camera up to you, we're here to talk about you, Sonny Palladino, all the great things that have been happening with you and in your career. So I would ask you, so how did you get involved in theater?
Well, I guess my sister, who Tara Kiesel, she really had the bug early on, and there she is. There we are. And when we were very young, and she signed up for a summer theater program, and she's 5 years older than me, so I guess I always wanted to do what she was doing. So the next year, there's my folks. I joined the summer theater program, and we would put on shows, and then. It was years later that Tara found CM, and she auditioned for what I think was their first production of West Side Story, and we went to see it. I think I was 8 or 9, and it blew me away. Just West Side Story. I'd never seen anything like it, and I was hooked on the soundtrack immediately. My mother and I would play it over and over, and I'd learn all the songs, and so that was my first sort of seeing some real live theater, and I don't know that I wanted to do it necessarily, but I did like it, yeah.
So was CM like the first place you saw like a big full
Yeah,
musical?
that production of West Side Story, yeah. And then the following year, they only did a few. This was when they were doing stuff out of, I can't even remember if they had a real rehearsal space, but they would do stuff at LaSalle, at St. John's. I can't remember. I think that was at St. John's. And the next year they did Jesus Christ Superstar, which also blew my mind in a very different way than West Side Story. So yes, yeah, definitely.
Well, we know that Noel, the past executive director, loved to do things big. He loved to go big, and I remember seeing a CM show at that time and thinking, there's a cast of thousands up there.
I know, yeah.
But actually, for me, I had the same reaction, which was like, this is so cool. And maybe for me, mine was, I want to be in that cast of thousand. I want to be a part of that team of people. And I think I remember I was like 11 or 12. Because CM has, I don't know what it is, and maybe it was just in that time when Noel put, I think, like everything of himself into the productions, and he would go places that I don't think a lot of directors would think about. And I was always just so impressed by him and by what CM could do.
That's all I knew. When I first started working there, Noel was like, he had such an energy, and we would all just sort of have to rise to that level. And he taught me everything I learned from working there.
So it's one thing that's so Sonny. You have Grey Star Stage. I mean, you played Sonny in Greece. You were Sonny playing Sonny in Greece.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't make that up.
No.
So it's one thing to be a performer on the stage, and that, I think that, like, in order to get involved in theater, there's so many opportunities as a performer, but it's another thing to be a person, playing piano, even starting as a rehearsal pianist. How did you move from, or did you start as, with piano and theater?
Yeah, well, it's 100% Noel. He somehow found out that I played piano. I don't really remember how he found that out, but he hired me to play my first gig ever, which was Journey Across the Crucifixion. And we would travel all around all around Long Island. My parents would drive me, Queens, Brooklyn. It was crazy what we would do. But I was getting paid to play the piano, and I thought it was awesome. And then it was a few years later that sort of just morphed into playing for the shows. The first show that I played for was Annie. And it was crazy. And I didn't, I look back, I think back to, like, I probably wasn't good enough to be playing such a hard score, but, somehow we got through it.
I've seen those piano scores. It is not easy. And for someone, how old were you when you played that?
I was in high school, so maybe no, I had to be 15 years old. Yeah. So,
because I remember, I think you and I were involved in another production of West Side Story somewhere else, and I think I remember you led the full orchestra at this. I think it was at Kids for Kids. I think we did something at Kids for Kids, and I remember seeing you either playing piano, and, like, I remember seeing you with, like, the 1, 2, 3 tiered, pianos.
Oh, yeah. Well, you might have that. That might be Jesus Christ Superstar that had all the keyboards. But West Side Story, the big production, and I can't remember if you were in that, we did years later at the theater. It was the second year at the theater, and we had, like, the 30-piece orchestra, and I was conducting, and that was magical still to this day.
So I would ask you, do you think, well, you brought up so many points, but do you think that, like, CM played a role in you getting into the career that you're in now?
I would not be in this career without CM. No way. Stranger things have happened. Maybe I would have found it a different way, but I never really thought I would do theater. While I worked at CM and I liked playing for the shows, I was really I wanted to be a jazz musician. So I went to Berklee College of Music to study jazz, and then finished up at City College in Manhattan. And the whole time I would commute back and forth from City College to Long Island, and I worked at CM at night. I at that point in college, I was doing basically every show. This was like, again, this is like year 3 of being in the theater, and it was just intense. It was just always another show and children's theater and all this. So I did all these shows, and I didn't realize at the time, but it was going to be what paved the way for my career. And now I officially work in theater, but that came later as something I really did it for a living. It was just sort of a job that I did at CM, and I loved it, but I wanted to do other things. And when becoming a jazz musician was not as easy as I thought it might be, later on, I was like, I do this theater thing. Let me try to see if I can do that.
So we have a comment from Elise Arpino. Sonny was the musical director when I played Annie.
I know you are, Elise. Yep.
One of my favorite musical directors.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, she was great. I remember, I'm sure that was her first big role, and it was my first time doing that at all. And I know I was overwhelmed, but we got through it. We had a great time.
So someone who doesn't work in the theater, Sonny, how would you describe a musical director to someone who doesn't know what it is?
All right. So we obviously have the director, right? We know what the director does. The creative team of a Broadway show, you have the music director, you have the director, the choreographer, and then the music director. And they're just there to direct the music, I guess. But that can mean a lot of things. We're involved in casting, choosing who plays the role. The director always has the final say, but they'll always ask the music director, can this person sing the role? And you try them out on everything. And then, you decide who's going to play in the band, and you teach all the music, and then you conduct the show at night. And there's a lot of other jobs in between, which we can get into later, arranging and orchestrating and all that. But that's just the basic job of a music director.
So, Sonny, would you say that your family, your parents, your sister were supportive of you taking this jump to work in the theater?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Again, my parents would drive me everywhere before I could drive, right? So they would have to drive me to all my first gigs. And I think we're in Hollywood Beach, Florida there. Nice place. Yeah, I almost feel like they wanted me to do this more than I wanted to do it. But they certainly were. I certainly never felt like, we'd really prefer if you did some other thing. No, I always had the support to do
Dr. Sonny Paladino.
Yeah, well.
Anyways.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm looking over at my questions here because we talked about, so what was the first, so we talked about Annie was the first musical direction you did here, right? Okay. So what was one of your favorite moments at CM?
Well, we already touched on it, but it's really that production of, you just went away on me. Oh, look at that. That production I found it, yeah. Of West Side Story that one summer. I think it was the second summer we were in the theater, and it was this perfect, it was just timed out perfectly. All these, we had a completely volunteer orchestra at the time, and that was part of my job. I was always like hustling, begging people to play in the pit. And we always had great players, but it was summertime, and all these great musicians were home from college, from a lot of them from Crane School of Music, and a lot of people I'm still very close with. And we filled that orchestra pit with a 30-piece orchestra, and we were playing West Side Story. And it was, anybody that was in that orchestra would tell you, it was just sort of a magical experience. That one summer, it was just like kind of the pinnacle. It was like we had been working up to that moment. It just felt so great to be in the theater, full orchestra, sounding great. So
was that one of the moments where you're like, you know what, jazz, I love jazz, but I think this is the direction I'm going to go in?
I actually never thought I was good enough as a reader to play because I really like to make music up, and which is why I like jazz. But I thought Broadway, you really need to be like a classical pianist, which is just not me. And luckily for me, Broadway music has changed a lot since even that moment. Like, if you look at my resume, there are no Stephen Sondheim musicals on my resume. I'm just not. That's not what I do. More of the pop rock thing. Yeah, I think I answered that. Did I?
You totally did. We were talking about if with West Side Story, was that the moment?
Yeah. And I would good? All throughout CM. Again, I never thought I was good enough to do Broadway, but I would act as if I was conducting on Broadway every show we ever did, every performance. I remember thinking that, like, oh man, if we ever did this on Broadway, it'd be like, feel like this. And in some ways, nothing has changed. It still feels exactly the same,
So we have a comment from Kevin Merkel, the best volunteer pit ever assembled.
He's talking about that West Side Story, and he's right. Yeah, it was amazing.
I mean, that score is beautiful, and when you have a full orchestra, and I can only imagine 30 pieces.
Yeah, it was great. It was magical. Kevin, I think you only played French horn I know you did. But there was another production. I always remember Kevin, because he's such a great musician, we did a production of Superstar at some point, and Kevin played like the French horn, the trumpet, and percussion. And it was just, he was playing everything. So.
All at once.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I would ask you, Sonny, what does CM mean to you?
Yeah, well, again, aside from just paving the way for my career, it was such a special place for everyone, and still is, of course, but for the people when I was there, community, right? We had a community. We were putting on shows. That was like what we did, but everyone really became friends and family, and Tim, you'll remember, we did a production of Grease. Oh, yeah, there. Look at all those people. Yeah. We did a production of Grease one summer. I played Sonny in that.
Wait, what was?
Yeah, and my sister Tara was in it. She played Patty Simcox, and you were Eugene, right?
Yes, I was.
And my sister got sick during that production, if you remember. And it was a really emotional moment for everybody. And the CM family just came together and supported us. We had a concert to raise money, and it was just that's what CM is. It's a family that can support you in everything.
So Sonny, also people online, if you have questions, please feel free to put them into the Facebook question. I will pull them in as we go along. And also, you're going to see right below Sonny, it says cmpac.com/donate. I have been tasked with raising money for this hour, so I would ask you to please hit that link up if you can. Any donation is greatly appreciated. So Sonny, what was your first professional credit? I know Journey was probably your first professional one, but what was like off Broadway? What was the first?
It was a tour of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Right out of college, I worked at a church for 3 years, and it was a great job, but I knew I needed to do something else, and I got a job at a theater in Pennsylvania, and I was like, oh yeah, this feels right. So after that, I worked there like 9 months, and I came back home, and I was like, all right, I came back to the city, and I was like, all right, I'm going to play on Broadway, like laser focused. I'm going to make this happen. And luckily, pretty quickly thereafter, I got the opportunity to audition for the tour of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels to play the piano in the pit, and not music director or anything. And I booked it crazily, and there I was touring the country with Broadway stars and Tony winners. And
what does that mean, audition? Like, do you just like an actor walk into the room, sit down, and play the piano so they can hear you?
They're not supposed to audition. It's a whole thing. Most of all Broadway shows hire musicians 100% word of mouth and your reputation. But this was like an incognito audition. There were only 3 of us. And we auditioned in the pit of the Broadway show, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. So it was my first time being backstage in a Broadway theater.
So that's not intimidating at all.
No, I know. and I was so terrified, but I was so prepared. There's Whoopi Goldberg. My then roommate, Michael Carbonaro, name dropping here. I think he's going to be on with you. Oh, there he is. And Rob, I don't know if you're on. Were you living with us at the time? Anyway, I would practice that music day in and day out, like so much they were ready to kill me. But I went in, and there was no way I wasn't gonna get it, because I knew I was just more prepared than anybody would be, because we had 4 songs, and I practiced them, 7 hours a day. So yeah, I was terrified, but I pretended I wasn't, and I fooled them, and they gave me the gig.
Rob Buchwald says, great big stuff.
God, yeah. Yep, I practiced that a lot.
Diana, the apartment of hotties.
Oh, thank you, Diana.
So Diana has a question, and her question is, Sonny, what's in the mug?
Oh, it's just water.
Sure.
Very dry up here.
I'm so dry.
Don't worry, there's plenty of booze in this house right now. I'm not doing it yet.
Well, cheers to you, Sonny. I have a glass of water here and a glass of wine.
Nice.
Cheers to you, Sonny. Thank you for being here, and everybody online. Cheers! Thank you all for being here, Sonny, and thank you so much for sharing everything. So
yeah,
okay. So for our education, we're going to talk about a couple of different things, because you've played a couple different You've had many different positions working in music in the theater. So for our education, what is the difference between, because I saw this on your resume, you were a conductor for one, then you were an associate conductor for another. What's the difference between those two?
Those two. Yeah, the conductor is the person that does the show 8 times a week on Broadway. But Broadway show, the musicians have this great, in the contract, you're allowed to sub out 50% of the performances. So to do other projects, everyone's always working on a million things. So the conductor, when the conductor isn't there conducting, the associate conductor moves in and conducts the show. But also they run rehearsals, and they often train the new people that come into the show. A Broadway show, we're constantly getting new people into the show. Either people are out hurt, or they move on to, a better gig or whatnot. But so we're always putting new people in the show. The associate conductor winds up doing a lot of the rehearsals. Broadway's a tougher job, and it seems there's 8 shows every week, and then there's rehearsals every Thursday, every Friday for understudies, and so it's like just a constant machine.
So what was the first show that you conducted, and what was going on in your head once you went like this and the orchestra started, the lights went down, the curtain raised up? What was going on in your head?
Through that Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, I met a great guy, John Samorian, who he was the husband of one of the women on the tour, and we just got along well. And I just became friends with him, and that's my biggest advice in what I do is just become friends with people, because people wind up hiring their friends, and you can't ever be like, oh, hey, do you need somebody to play? Do you want a sub to play? Everyone knows you want to work. So just be cool. And he and I became friends on that tour. And then when I got back to the city, he was the associate conductor on the last revival of Grease. And he was like, do you want to sub for me? And I was like, all right, yep. So I learned that, and I thought I was going to get fired after my first show, and I didn't. And because it's so nerve-wracking. You wind up playing your first, as a sub, you play your first show with no rehearsal. You've never played with these people. You don't know how it's going to feel. You sit and you're able to watch the regular guy do it. But so I passed the first step, and then they were like, hey, we need another person to conduct the show. Do you want to learn to do that? And I said yes, and I did. And yeah, it was terrifying, but so fun. And again, I always say, you know, Broadway, as a musician, you have a little advantage because you're able to prepare as much as you need to. And same thing, Michael and Rob had to listen to me practice then Grease, you know, 5,000 times. But I was ready. I was prepared when I went to conduct that show. I'm sure I was shaking, but I got through it. So.
Dun, 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 dun. Grace.
Yep.
So I looked through your website. I read your bio, and you have worked a lot. I mean, it seemed like you moved from project to project to project, and pretty big productions, like The Last Ship, written by 16-time Grammy Award winner Sting.
Yeah.
Like sitting across the room from Sting. Like, what was that like?
I mean, it's amazing. That was one of the best experiences till this day. When that show closed, and it closed way too early, I was so heartbroken because it was just such a rewarding experience. And mostly Sting was just so great and gracious. And yeah, you're like in the room with a rock star, and you got to try to pretend that he's just another guy. And that's actually my MO when working with these people is, you know, they're used to fans telling them how great they are. They do not need to be told, oh, Sting, I really love your songs. Like,
yeah,
he knows everyone loves his songs. So just try to be human with him. And that's what I did. And it worked out, and we had a great time.
I mean, it's pretty hard to be human, Sonny, when Sting is like over your shoulder. You could like smell Sting, like he's right there. I mean, like in this moment, what were you guys doing?
Yeah, so that was terrifying. That was a terrifying. I remember it like it was yesterday. I came onto that show really late. They had like an emergency. They needed somebody to fill in and take over. And so I was doing Pippin at the time on Broadway. And so they called me on Saturday. They needed me to start on Monday. And so I didn't know the music, right? So I just subbed out all of my Pippin shows, and I would go to Last Ship rehearsal during the day, and I'd leave there at 6 o'clock, and I'd go into a rehearsal studio, and I'd practice all night, and pray that they didn't get to a song the next day that I didn't know yet. And so the real reason why they hired me is because they needed me to play for Tech, which is what I was doing in that picture. And that was 1 week after I got hired. And we were in Chicago. So I got hired. I played like a week of rehearsals in New York. Again, not too much, but they needed me to learn the score so I could play Tech because the rest of the music team was at band rehearsal. And so I'm just sitting there playing Tech. You know, it's slow. And then Sting comes in. So now it's just me and Sting. And he comes behind me, and there was some talk about changing the key to one of the songs. And so he goes, oh, Sonny, mate, what would this song, this is what he's saying right now, what would this song sound like down a step, you know? And I was like, oh, God. And so, Tim, you know, but those of you don't, that means he wanted me to transpose the song on site. And that's a skill that musicians have and should have. But, you know, and I am fairly good at it. But still not always great when Sting is over my shoulder and it's his song. And I had to transpose it, and he's singing like, it's not the same, whatever song it was. And I was terrified, but I got through it. And he and I became really close during that show. He's a great guy. When I talk about being scared, when I conducted my first show of that, again, I was totally prepared, but I started and my hands were shaking. And I was like, oh, God, how am I going to do this? And at intermission of that first show that I conducted, Sting came down, and he was like, he lives part-time in Italy, so he always called me Santino, which is my full name. He'd go, Maestro Santino, you know, and he came down at intermission, gave me a hug. So, Sting.
Oh my God, those are stories you dream of. You dream of happening. Ellen Dumlau, she wrote a comment. Jay and I saw Sonny at last ship.
Yeah, I know. And we were. Yep.
So proud of you.
Love you, Ellen.
I mean, it's so. I mean, Sonny. I mean, that's like. Not many people can say that. I mean, that's
it was very fortunate experience and a really fun one.
So when you told your parents you're going to be working on Last Ship and that Sting was going to be in it, what did they say?
Yeah, I mean, I it all happened so fast. We couldn't even really know what was happening. I wound up having to quit Pippin to do it, and I mean. It's so great that my parents get to come. They came to opening night and they met Sting, and that's when it's like really real for them.
Mom, meet Sting.
Sting,
Mom.
Yeah, and he again so gracious that I'm sure he said the perfect thing. I don't remember, but
that's so amazing. So you served.
I emailed him the other day because he also makes wine, and I had one of his bottles of wine, and I had to tell him how good it was. So he writes me right back. So.
Wait, do you literally like pull the phone up? Sting.
Yeah, he likes to keep in touch. So with everybody from the Last Ship, it was a really great experience. So all the cast, and we still have like email chains and stuff. That's so cool. I mean, it's no different than us. Once you do shows with people, it's a bond that lasts forever. So we're all friends.
So you served as the musical director for the Broadway musical Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812, and that was a very different type of interactive theater experience. What was it like working on a production like that? Yeah, I was just talking with the producer of that show the other day, and we were laughing how it's the most unsocially distanced show in the world. Could never happen right now. But it was totally interactive. We transformed the Imperial Theater. The entire theater became the playing space. And we had actors up in the mezzanine, musicians playing. And it was the biggest challenge with that show is coordinating all of that. Of course, sound has a delay, so to play violin up in the mezzanine while dancing and trying to be with the orchestra that's down there and the conductor that's down there it was actually a completely unique challenge that hadn't been a problem yet on Broadway. I worked with the sound designer a lot. We actually developed new techniques that hadn't been used before on Broadway, so that was a crazy challenge. But the musicians all wore in-ear monitors, so they were able to be in sync with the music. But it had a ton of challenges every day, but it was a great show. I think what people won't realize is that New York City theaters are like this big. Yeah. So, you think you walk into like these high school auditoriums and they have this big gigantic pit, this giant stage, giant back, and not everything is the Metropolitan Opera where you have like literally 8 stages behind. You have literally like this much room from the back wall, and then the orchestra pit is like this big. So what I found interesting, because I remember coming to see you when you were playing for Jesus Christ Superstar, and you were up on the 6th floor or in a dressing room, like far away. So like orchestras they're not all just sitting around each other. Yeah, and especially not anymore because the sets take up so much room, and as you say, there's not a lot of room. The theaters, they spend a lot of money making the front look okay, but backstage is like, as you say, it's like this. It has never been renovated. It's like everyone bumping into each other. And for Jesus Christ Superstar, they needed the majority of the orchestra pit to put some equipment for a set piece to come out. And so the drummer was remote, the percussionist was remote, and me and another keyboard player played the show from the 5th
floor dressing room remotely. I don't find that to be ideal. I had to there's a great flute duet for those of you who know in Superstar, I think it's in Judas's Death, and we only had one real flute player, so he was in the pit 6 floors down, and I had to play the other flute part on a keyboard. And I would just I'd crank up the headphones and try to hear him breathing, so I could with him, because you're like. Anyway.
Oh my goodness! I mean, but I think what's just so interesting that it's flawless, and you go to a Broadway show, it's like, wow, it's just magic. Like last week, Jessica Paz, who was actually 2 weeks ago, Jessica Paz was here, and she was talking about how she went to go see theater, and it was just magic happening.
Yeah.
You don't think there's so much behind that. So you talked a moment ago about how you worked on Diane Poulos' production of Pippin, and you were the associate conductor there. So and helping to update the way that music sounded, because we were in that age when Pippin came out. I think it came out in '74, and then by that time the time had gone by, and then theaters started to do it more and more and more. So we have this idea of how the songs are supposed to be, but the new version of Pippin came out, and it felt like all the songs were updated. It was a new way. So how are you involved?
Yeah, I mean, so Diane Paulus is, a genius. But her biggest genius, I think, is that she's a true collaborator. So anybody who has an idea, it's welcome. I always say, if the custodian is over there and says, hey, why don't you have him jump from there to there? She'd be like, yeah, let's try that. Everyone's idea is, anybody in the room, your idea is good. And so, yeah, we sat around for weeks before we even got into rehearsal, just trying to figure out what the sound would be, how to make it different. We had the circus element, which is obviously what we added, and how, that would actually obviously inform the music. And it was just a real collaboration. Every day we'd show up and we'd try to figure out this song or this scene change or this thing. And, that's the best part of working in theater, is the collaboration. Every day you walk into a rehearsal space at 10 a.m. and you don't know what the day is going to be, but this person says, oh, what about this? And this person says, what about this? And we all try to inspire each other. And then you get that, which I thought was a magical production. Super proud. And I know there was Nadia was our music supervisor, and so she's in charge, and there was the music director, then I was the associate, but we all felt equal, and I know my DNA is in that show. So cool. There's a great story I should share about that production of Pippin. We worked with Stephen Schwartz. He was there all the time too, who wrote Wicked and everything. And we did I should say, my actual first job music directing was actually at Kids for Kids. Is that where we worked? Did you ever work there, Tim?
Yes. I think that was the production that I was talking about. Maybe that's the one
you were talking about. Yeah. And I had this opportunity to music direct. I was still in high school, and my 2 best buddies till even today, Mike Buchwald and Ed Griffin, were in the band. And so we would practice every day after school the music to Pippin. And so in high school, we'd go to school, and then we'd be in the band room playing Pippin. And I learned a lot about playing music in general from that production. And so then we're doing the out-of-town tryout of Pippin in Boston. And there it is, yep. And Stephen Schwartz comes, and me and the music director go out afterwards for a drink. And we're just hanging out. And I got to tell him that story about how, it could have been Oklahoma. That was my first musical that I ever music directed, but it happened to be Pippin. And I got to tell Stephen Schwartz that story about how I basically learned this craft from this show. And he actually got choked up from that story. So it's one of those great moments.
My mouth is like,
Yes.
you know,
He's good
those.
like that too.
I mean, but those are incredible stories and incredible achievements, um, to be connected with projects like this. So I was looking through. I mean, Sonny, let's be honest. Your resume is impressive. As I zoom the camera in, your resume is really impressive, and you have, you've worked all across the industry. So what's the difference between arranging, orchestrating, musical directing, and then supervising? There's four of
So I
those
think
things.
we talked about, this will get a little technical, but I think we talked about music director and associate. I think we covered that. But arrangement and then orchestrating, those are two other jobs in theater. And sometimes it's the same person. Sometimes the music supervisor is also the arranger and maybe the orchestrator. But so the arranger, I always say, it's like how you change the song. So let's say it's a pop song, and then the director wants it to be a waltz. You change it to be that style. If you think of the movie Moulin Rouge, they famously took the song Roxanne, Sting song, which is like in a reggae groove, and they turned it into a tango. If you remember, this big like tango dance. That's an arrangement to me. That's like you took a song and you changed the way it was going to sound. And then someone has to figure out what the musicians are going to play. The flutes are going to play, the violins are going to play, the drums are going to go. That's the orchestration, and that's what the orchestrator does. So those are all the different jobs. And then the music supervisor is not necessarily needed, but on certain shows it is. The show I did, Getting the Band Back Together, I was just the music director. We didn't have a music supervisor because it was a small enough show. But then, like the revival of Smokey Joe's Cafe, I was the music supervisor because I couldn't conduct that show, but I had done all the new arrangements and orchestrations already. So I was the supervisor on that show. We all in this business, we trade these jobs back and forth. It's just sort of like what you're doing on a particular show. There's no real rhyme or reason. Again, it's all sort of word of mouth. And on a new show that I'm working on, I'm the music supervisor and the conductor, but we have a separate vocal arranger and a separate dance arranger. And yes, Dion.
Is that the production?
That's a show that I'm working on called The Wanderer, which is that first guy. That's first guy is Dion DiMucci, a big doo-wop star. He wrote The Wanderer, Run Around Sue, ton of great big hits. But
so you like doo-wop music?
Well, I have no choice at this point.
Well, because it's a great segue, because you talked about this upcoming project that you're working on, but you were also a founding member of the Doo-Wop Project.
That's us.
Which has been touring not just around the country but around the world. So, how did you get involved with doing the Doo-Wop Project?
Yeah, so that guy right there with the slick back hair, Italian-looking guy. He came to me. I knew him from working on Broadway shows, and he said he wanted to start this group of doo-wop music. He said, "Do you have any interest or experience with that music?" And it turns out my uncle was in one of the early doo-wop groups, Johnny Maestro and the Brooklyn Bridge. So I'd been around this music forever, and I tell this story in the show. So anybody who's seen doo-wop show knows this story, but. So it was sort of like a perfect marriage, and me and the 5 singers put together 6 songs 7 years ago. We did a showcase in New York City to get people to book our show. Again, we didn't really have a show; we only had 6 songs, and we got a few bookings, and so we had to make a full show. And that first year we had like 5 bookings. The next year 10. Next year 20, and then the last 2 years like over 100 a year. And as you said, all over the world. I mean, we played in China, in Beijing last year. There we are. That's at Tiananmen Square, and we're about to go to the Great Wall of China But yeah, we were playing at the Blue Note in Beijing, and we played all that symphony work we that you talked about earlier. We play with most of the major symphonies in the country, and then I've had the opportunity to orchestrate for those 60-piece orchestras, which has been incredible. Like you write. I sit for hundreds of hours by myself writing. I call them dots for musicians to play, and then they play it, and it sounds hopefully good. There's nothing like that. But yeah, the doo-wop project has been amazing, and doo-wop is, and then The Wanderer, as you showed, is a musical about a doo-wop star, and so it's all. I do a lot of doo-wop these days.
So you're also. I'm looking at my notes over here. So you also are a composer. I saw in your bio that you worked on The Return of the Blue Cat.
Yeah, so that was I don't know if Mike Buchwald and Ed Griffin are still on, but we had the opportunity many years ago to write music. So F.D. Reeves is the poet. That's Christopher Reeve's father, actually. Superman. His father is a world famous poet. He's passed now, but his last book of poems was released with our improvised jazz music. And yeah, we wrote that music, but a lot of like the arranging work that I'm not really a composer in the sense that I just don't sit down and write songs. There are people that do that. That's not what I do. I usually, like, if I have someone has an idea and they want it to be fleshed out musically, that's what I do. And a lot of the arranging work that I do, I would say, is borderline composing. Sometimes the director will just be like, well, I remember Diane Paulus was big on that. She'd be like, I don't know, we need some music here. And you better play something and there. So, you make up a little thing, and that's composing, I guess. And that becomes arrangements throughout the show. So yeah, that's my composing work. But
so Rob Buchwald said he is still on. He's here.
There he is.
Diana saying exit.
The name of our group was Exit 59 for the exit of Ronkonkoma.
That's great. And Michael Buchwald says, you're doing great, Sonny.
Oh, thank you, Mike. See, they're all trying to heckle me now. There's a group of guys that every Saturday night in quarantine, we've been getting together and having a happy couple of hours. And they've been promising they'd come on and heckle me. So I think this is part of that.
We're at that part of the show. We're at the leave Sonny alone, everybody.
Yeah.
So Sonny. Neil Diamond.
Oh, yeah.
Neil Diamond. I saw back in January, you played music. You played Neil Diamond's music for Neil Diamond. What was that like?
Yeah, it was crazy. That day was crazy. We've been working on a musical for about his. It's definitely about his life, but it's told in a really interesting way. We've been working on it for over a year, and he hasn't been involved too much because we needed to present him something. We didn't really know what the show was, so we have what's called readings, and we did like a reading in October, and then another one in maybe one in September, October. And then in December, we went to Bob Gaudio, who is one of the founding members of the Four Seasons, of Jersey Boys fame. He wrote all the Frankie Valli songs. He also is a big producer of Neil Diamond's music. So he is sort of involved, and we went to his studio in Nashville in December, and we created all these demo tracks. And then in January, just this past year, we did a reading, and Neil finally came to it. And, we don't know if he's going to like it, if he's going to hate it, if he's going to, and all that work we've been doing. If he says, I don't like it, then it's done. We don't do the show. He has obviously creative say. And so he came, he sat like right next to me, and I had to conduct the show with our little band and the, great actors we had. And he was, I think, a little overwhelmed at first and was just observing. And then by the end of the act, I shouldn't give it away, but, there's a certain song, Sweet Caroline, and I just saw him like start to clap along and sing along to his own song, Sweet Caroline. He's like right there. And so then I think he kind of liked it. And then afterwards, we went out to lunch, and he was very kind and favorable. So we were on track to move that show along really quickly, and then this all happened. So we're in a pause at the moment. Still talking about it and working on it as much as we can remotely. But as soon as we're all back, you'll check out the Neil Diamond musical.
Oh,
It's gonna be great.
It's so exciting.
Yeah,
so once the dust settles, that's what you're working on the next thing, Neil Diamond.
Yep.
I remember there's one of my favorite movies, What About Bob? And he's at the social worker, and he says, "My wife and I just didn't get along. She was the woman who liked Neil Diamond, and I don't like Neil Diamond."
Yeah,
and then the other character is like, "So what you're saying is that your marriage didn't work because you don't like Neil Diamond." So I remember that, and I always think about Neil.
It's totally true. The world is divided. If you like Neil Diamond, you love Neil Diamond, and you know every one of his songs. And if you don't, you're just like, don't know Neil Diamond. But his songs are great when you really get into them. And he's like the second highest selling solo recording artist of all time, worldwide. Like he has international fame. So I think we'll have a good show. Hopefully.
It's exciting. So Sonny, what inspires you to do what you do now? Since you've been in the industry for a while, what inspires you?
Yeah, I mean, it's still that same thing to collaborate with other people. I never know what the day is going to be like, especially when we're rehearsing and creating new shows. That was the Neil Diamond musical, and for some reason, Whoopi was in the rehearsal room next door, and she came in. That's a funny picture. And that's my favorite part of working in theater, the collaboration. So a choreographer will come and say, Sonny, the music needs to do this, and we need to, it should feel like this, and and I'll play something. What about this? And they'll go, yeah, or can it have more of a drive? And then I'll tell the guitar player play eighth notes on the guitar, or the drummer to like do a hi-hat pattern or whatever. So that's my favorite part of working in theater, if that was the actual question.
Yeah, no, it was a great answer. So what's the advice that you what's the best advice that you received?
That I received?
Yeah.
And I told the guys I'd wind up telling the story. They're heckling me. I can hear it. Me and say Mike Buchwald, Ed Griffin, Adam Furtman, all CM alumni who we drink together every Saturday now. We went to see Herbie Hancock when we were in high school. We were all big into. We played the song Watermelon Man 500 too many times because we played it every day in school. We just loved it. It was a Herbie Hancock song. And so he was playing in Huntington, and we went to see him, and it was epic. And afterwards, we waited for him afterwards, and I asked him, hey, I'm an aspiring young jazz pianist. Do you have any advice? And he didn't say like practice. He was like, hey man, you got to get your life together because you have to have a story to tell in your music. Because if there's no story, nobody's going to want to listen to it. And that just stuck with me forever. And it's so true. Music is so personal, and people can see right through it when it's fake and there's no depth. And that's what when you hear Herbie Hancock play a chord on the piano, it just sounds different than I can play the same exact chord, but his story is in it when he plays it, and he's got a great story.
So what advice would you give to the next generation who want to do what Sonny Paladino does?
I always say this, which is kind of simple, but it's just be nice. There's so many people out there wanting to do what we have the great opportunity to do, which is play and make music. And everyone wants to work with nice, easy to get along with people. We work with our friends, and the people that have a bad attitude, that come in with a chip on their shoulder. I don't care how burning you are on the piano or the saxophone or whatever it is that you do. If you're not nice, that gets weeded out right away. And so just be nice and humble, and try to work well with others.
Sonny, that is amazing advice. It takes you far in life, and it's taking you far in life.
Yeah. Just try. That's what we need right now. Kindness,
Absolutely. So, Sonny, we are at the point in the interview where we do the actor studio questions.
Oh boy.
And tonight, I actually have a special guest who's I didn't tell you about, because why would I? It has to be a surprise. And, why don't I just bring them on?
Oh.
Do we see her? Is she here?
Well, I don't see her picture. Oh, she went away.
Well, she has been sitting in what we call the backstage area here, very patiently in the quiet, getting ready to come on. We will give her a second to join us back, because her and I talked this afternoon. We got it all planned out. She walked all around her house. She found the best place. She did her hair. She looks very, very pretty. I just saw her because I've seen her for the past hour. So, Tara, if you are listening, come right back on. Come right back into the system. It's in this, Sonny. This is what broadcasting, live broadcasting, is all about. Things like this.
That's what it is. And
sometimes happen.
It happens all the time. We do Broadway shows on TV shows, and everything that can go wrong eventually does.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you can't really, you can't make it up. It sort of is what it is. And you know what I'm going to do? I think this is probably the easiest thing for me to do, is I'm going to FaceTime your sister. Here she is.
What's
Are you
up,
there?
Dad?
I'm here. I just tried to log on and it just shut down for a second.
Oh, okay. Well, do you want to try coming back into the system?
Yes, I'll try. Okay.
Okay, but here, are you using your phone, or are you using the computer?
I am. I'm using the phone.
Which is what we're on right now.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to hang up and then you call right in.
Okay.
Fantastic. No, go right into the platform. We're on FaceTime right now, but call into the platform and we'll have you join. This is live performance. Actually, you know what? While we're waiting for Tara to come and join us, if people have any questions for Mr. Palladino, please put them into the Facebook questions over there. So we will do this. We will do this part when Tara comes on. She was really great this afternoon. So yes, Tara will be here in a moment. So yeah, and again, if you have questions, please go ahead, put it into the Facebook question area. So Sonny, I'll ask you, what are you doing when you're not doing theater?
Traveling. I love to travel. Everyone that knows me knows I'm always traveling. The Do-Up project has really allowed us to all travel all over the country. But when I have a gig in anywhere near LA, I usually extend the trip, or I'm always. Oh, there she is. She's flipped, but
Hi, sorry.
Hi there.
You're
No,
flipped.
it's all good.
Tim, it's all good.
Hey, I'm
What's
so
up,
glad
Dad?
that you're here. Welcome.
Thank you.
So it's the Palladino triangle.
Yes, it is.
So I'll ask you both, actually. What
Okay.
is so Sonny, I'll ask you yours. What's your motto? And then Tara, what's your motto? And then if the family had a motto, it was the Palladino motto. What's the Palladino motto?
God, you put me on the
Oh
spot.
God, you're putting on the spot. He's right.
I'm not gonna tell you all this stuff in
Didn't
advance.
I already answer with be kind?
I agree with that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the best thing now with everything going on. Of course, that is. I would agree.
So Tara, what is the last time that you saw Mr. Palladino here, Mr. Sonny?
That was like 2 weeks ago. It was, I think, the day before Easter. Sonny came to my house in Bayport. My parents came, and we did like a little social distancing visit, shall you say. So me and the kids were in the driveway, and Sonny was in his car, and my parents were in their car, and then we kind of came out for a little bit and just, hung out and talked, and it was different, but it was fun, something different.
So were you guys like 6 feet apart, one on one side of the driveway, one on the other, but all like cheering yourselves?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yep.
So you have twins. I'm a twin as well.
I know you are.
I love twins. I think life as a twin is great. How is Sonny
Oh, there.
you're there?
Oh, that's in Hollywood Beach, Florida.
Yeah.
So how is Sonny as an uncle?
Oh my God, he's an awesome uncle. Kids love him; they adore him. We have so much fun with him. We go to his house in Pennsylvania. We visit there in the summer and the winter. We just we actually, right before all this craziness, we were all skiing together, and he takes my son down the Black Diamonds, and it's just so much fun. And then, of course, they've had such a great opportunity of seeing Sonny in Pippin, and I think what was the other one? Getting the band back together. So not only do they get to see live theater, but they see their uncle, conducting, which is like amazing, an experience that they probably will never forget. So it's great. And, the kids love him, and they love going into the city and seeing him. And we have a lot of fun with Uncle Sonny.
So when they've come to see him the first time, what did they say to you on the way home?
Oh, I think they were just like amazed, I mean, I think, if I can remember, I think Pippin was one of the first Broadway shows that they've seen. Oh no, actually it was Spider-Man, but that was the first like real great performance that they saw, and they loved it, and they were just watching them watch my brother and their uncle. It was amazing seeing that. It was great.
That's my uncle right there. He was the conductor. He was the orchestrator.
They love coming to see Doo-Wop Project too.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, they do love that. Yeah, they actually listen to the music all the time, and they love going to see the Doo-Wop Project. They saw them a couple of times, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah. That's always fun too.
That's
so. A lot of culture.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's so great. So Tara,
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw the baton to you to take on this Actor Studio section question. So Tara, take it away.
All right. You ready, Sonny?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So, what is your favorite word?
Oh, I can't say it. Fuck.
Nice.
Sorry, it's true.
It's true. Okay. What is your least favorite word?
Oh, I actually think this is your least favorite word, but it's become my least favorite word, I think. But it's a lot of people's least favorite word. Let's say noise.
Okay. Yeah. Oh my God, I hate that word. Can't stand it. Okay. What gets you excited?
In general, I said travel, and I hate to say it, eating and drinking really good wine lately. That's the only thing I can do.
Right. Exactly. Okay. And what turns you off?
Oh, rudeness and people who are impatient and
yeah, I get that.
Those people.
Okay. All right. Excellent. What sound or noise do you love?
Oh, well, lately, being here in the country, I wake up really early, so it's the birds chirping. Very nice.
Okay. Very nice. What sound or noise do you hate?
Construction in New York City.
Yeah.
Tim knows. constant.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Not right now,
It
though.
is. No, not at all.
That's so funny. You're
All right,
comparing
what is
like
your favorite? I think you said this already, but what is your favorite curse word?
Yep, same.
I've heard many.
I say it
Same.
too often, probably. No, it's really descriptive, though. It's such a good word.
It's true. It's true. Okay. Let's see. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Well, everyone that knows me knows I love architecture, so
Yep.
probably not going to happen at this point, but I would be an architect or a pilot.
Oh, that's right. Yep. Yep. Okay. And what profession would you not like to do?
Oh, it's crazy. It's what you do, Tara.
Oh my goodness.
No. Teachers are so important, and I mean, I've had such great teachers in my life, and I wouldn't be the person I am without them. But I have no patience for teaching. It's people that do what you do that I can't imagine. It's so hard, so much work, but so that's.
Yeah. I think you would be a great teacher, though. I just agree with that part. You're welcome. Okay. All right. And the last question: if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Welcome, Sonny. It's exactly how you thought it would be.
All right. Nice.
Nice
Well,
answers,
Sonny.
guys.
Oh, thanks. Nice questions.
Nice answers. So I think what's so funny. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're a
Yeah.
little scratchy.
Oh, okay. Lovely. Let's see.
You're better now. You're better. You're good. You're good.
Better now? Okay. So I love the fact that, Sonny, you're like, construction is really bad in New York City, but birds drive me. Birds
No, I like the birds. I like the birds.
It's the construction he hates. Yeah.
I like construction.
So Tara, were there any questions that you thought Sonny answered where you're like, I don't think that that's the case?
No, it was pretty accurate, I would say. I mean, a lot of the things he said, I knew he was going to say. I had a feeling, So
Yeah.
it was good.
She'd probably disagree with the being nice all the time. Not my problem.
Maybe so.
I'd say I try to be nice all the time.
Yeah, we all try. Right.
Well, that was fantastic. That was a really nice conversation, loving conversation between brother and sister. Wait, so do you have any funny stories, Tara? You want to share about Sonny, or Sonny? Do you have any funny stories you want to share about Tara?
Put Tara on the spot. I'd be on the
Oh,
spot.
great.
Okay, Tara, we're gonna zoom in right here.
Okay. I always just joke with my kids and say, like, because my kids love each other, as you know, as a twin, like you love each other, and like you can hate each other, and like a lot of times they're like running after each other, like beating each other up, wrestling or whatever. And I always share the experiences that me and my brother had, like when we were young, the same things. It was just funny. And now, like, it's changes. Like I always tell them, you might be fighting now, but when you get older, you're gonna be really close. And how me and my brother are now. We're really close now. And,
So you can't see it probably, but there's a scar on my hand.
Wait, I'll zoom
You
in.
can't see.
Oh yeah, when I used to.
Well, there's like 3 scars from my sister's nails digging into me when we were kids. So
Do you look at them every time you go like this?
yeah, we like really used to fight.
Yeah, we used to really fight bad, but
But now
brotherly
just
But then
loving.
we started doing theater together, and then we had to become friends.
What was the
Yes.
first? Did you guys do you guys perform together?
Well, there was the production
yeah.
of Grease we all did together. So all 3
That's
of us.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But then there's a lot of shows that I was acting and up on
Yeah, that
stage,
was
and
conducting.
of course he was conducting, and that was such a great
We
experience.
did a lot of that. Yeah.
Seeing my brother down there and me being able to perform, it was so fun.
You never. I mean, there are a lot of families that are involved in theater together, and do that. And for me, my brother was one of those football people who like sports, so I didn't have that. So the fact that you guys
Right.
had a combined interest and you guys got to do it together is just so cool.
Yeah, it was. Great
Just so
memories.
cool. So we have a couple questions here. Terry, you want to hang out?
Oh, sure.
Okay, cool. So we have a couple questions. So Brendan Noble, Getting the Band and the Neil Diamond Show both have Ken Davenport as a producer. Is your involvement in both coincidental, or do you find that the creative team, even in the Broadway arena, stick together on projects?
Oh yeah, definitely. We're all. If you find someone you like to work with, you wind up working together. The director of getting the band back together hired me to do a show with him in China this last year, and Ken Davenport, and I have become good friends. And he actually, his company manages the Doo-Wop project now. So yeah, that's what it's. Again, it's all about building relationships and being friends with people. And then if if you don't kill each other by the end of the show, you usually want to work together again. So then you look for opportunities to do that.
So Mark Ossay, he chimed in. Thanks for giving back, Sonny. Thank you for being here.
What's up, Mark? Good to see you. Hope you're staying safe.
Mark.
So Diana, she says, do you still have a copy of Fountainhead?
I'm sure I do. Yeah, I'm sure it's in storage somewhere. But I haven't read that book. It's just an important book in my life. And it's the main character. It's all about being a true artist, and the main character is an architect. I can't believe you remember that thing.
So we have a question from Michael Buchwald. Sonny, great job. When you get to the pearly gates, I hope you hear, "Hurry on in, Sonny. It's Hell Week."
Oh my God.
Good one, Mike.
Very, very good. Let's see. Rob Gentleman said, I think Tara would win the fight.
Yeah. Thanks,
I
Rob.
have the scars to prove it.
Yeah, really.
Diana says, yeah, no, I have it.
Oh, you have it. Oh, good. Did you read it?
We will have to see that on an upcoming interview. Guys, this has been so much fun. I'm so glad that you, Sonny, that you were available to chat with us. Tara, I'm so glad that you were able to be a part of this interview. It made it so much more special and unique.
Yeah,
and
it was fun.
It was really, guys, you're the example of CM families who were involved, that love the organization, that were a part of you're part of our history. And the fact that you both, Tara, you're an educator, Sonny, you're working to continue in theater. You're both doing so amazing things, and it's so great to see you do so extremely well. And both of you do really well in your fields. So last points before we go. You guys, do you have anything you want to say as a last words?
Yeah, just Tim, what you said. I mean, CM means a lot to so many people, and next generation of people that it will inspire. We need to make sure CM is still around when this is all over. So if you can, I know there are so many charities to give to these days, and so much real need. But CM is one of those places. So please donate and keep this place going.
You are totally one of our success stories, Sonny. It's incredible to see what you've done and in the world of theater, and you have affected theater. You are making changes in the industry, and Tara, you as a teacher as well, you're doing those great things. What would you have as a going away comment, Tara?
Well, I mean, just like Sonny said, I mean, Creative Ministries, made me who the person I am. Really, I met so many wonderful people and had so many great experiences, and was able to take that with me. So yeah, so having live theater around in the community is just so important, and we really need to continue to support live theater. And like I said, such great experience with Sonny, and I'm so proud of my brother, so proud of you, Sonny, for all the amazing things you do, and now I get to share that with my kids, so it's just great.
Well, Palladino family, thank you so much for being here, for being a part of CM Spotlight, and I wish you all healthy times up ahead, and we look forward to seeing you both walk in the theater door, hopefully sometime soon.
Great, Tim. Thanks for doing this, Tim.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. So, Sonny, everybody, guys, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for coming to speak with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, Sonny, I'm going to bring you back on. Mr. Sonny Paladino.
I got
Thank you.
224 text messages during this of all my friends heckling me, so I can't wait to read this.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here, and I'll be right back. So we've had some incredible talks these past couple of weeks. We have talked with Robert Anthony Jones, Nikki Sanchez, the leadership team from Journey, Jessica Paz, CM's artistic director, Patrick Grossman, with Bailey Whitney, Steve Contenero, Katie Ferretti, from CM's production of Holiday Inn, and now Sonny Paladino, not to mention our executive director, Elise Arpino, and the great John Rivera and Hans Hendrickson. So just to give you a little bit of information about what's coming up. So today we talked with Sonny. Next week, on April 30th, we will be talking with jazz and pop recording artist, the incomparable Jane Monheit. And then on May 7th, name drop, names from the past, and we're going to be starting with the boys, Boccia, Buchwald, Persio, and Gabriel. On May 14th, brand new, we're just announcing it right now, we will be talking with actor, magician, producer, and star of The Carbonaro Effect, Michael Carbonaro. And then following on May 21st, at Sea, a panel of performers who have entertained on cruise ships featuring Anthony Arpino, Simone Catalano, Emily Hannaway, Bobby Montaniz, and Jennifer Roller. So as we close, I have another friendly reminder. Please, please, please consider donating to CM. Here is the link, cmpac.com/donate. With your help, we will be here for years to come, but we cannot do it without your support. So if you visit this website, cmpac.com/donate, it will take you to our GoFundMe page. Any dollar amount will help, and you will help continue the work once we can open our doors to the theater. So with that wraps up another episode of CM Spotlight. On behalf of CM community, please stay safe, healthy, wear those masks, and be well. And we will see you next week. Bye, guys.